Jamaica, make we do the right thing. Make we live good today for a better tomorrow. Talk it out. Don't fight it out. The time by the Ministry of National Security is
6:30.
Voting is complete in many counties in Indiana and Kentucky, while the rest of the country polls are just about closing now. Some of them will be open up until about 8 o'clock Jamaica time. But lead story this evening taps into the U.S. presidential election, and the exit polls so far are showing that most Americans voted based on their feeling about the state of the democracy in the country. And of course, the other very important word concerning the economy, stupid. That's what many people say influenced how they voted between Trump and Kamala. Let's start the show. Lead story today on this Tuesday. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM TV. The word is that the first polls have closed in the U.S. presidential election. As I noted, polls closing in Indiana and Kentucky. Those are two red states, not consequential, analysts say, to the outcome this year. For the rest of the country, polls are closing just about now in some places, while, as I noted, the polls will remain open up to 8 p.m. in certain places to facilitate voting. No patterns emerging yet. I mean, with polls just closing and most not closed yet, you won't get an idea of where this election is going. But one thing that the analysts at the leading media houses have managed to glean so far is just what Americans think about the election from the perspective of the main issues affecting the country. And rather, of course, it's against the law to ask someone who you voted for, really. To ask somebody to tell you who, because voting is a private action. But what they did ask them fairly and squarely was, what influenced the decision you made as you left the polling booth? And for many people, for most people, it was the state of the democracy. Then it was the state of the economy. Those were the two issues that people felt most strongly about, and that is what influenced their poll. The issue of immigration came in about 4th or 5th in the national exit polling of a feature, if you can call it that. But the democracy and the economy, the two things that are most concerning to Americans, and what loaded up their decision when they went behind the booth to mark the note for Kamala or for Donald Trump. This evening on Lead Story, we're going to talk to some people in the United States who can give us a perspective of how the election is, how the issues that went into voting day and how things went from the neck of the woods that they are. Before that, I was stalling for time to play this package that we've presented on the day's proceedings, looking at what went into today's momentous voting day in the United States.
It's the Tuesday after the first Monday in November, a significant date for our neighbors up north, as this is the appointed date when they head to the polls every 4 years to elect a president since 1895. In this cycle, the race featured some familiar faces squaring off with their running mates at the polls to become president of the U.S. or POTUS. Former President Donald Trump and the current second in command of the U.S. government, Kamala Harris. For Trump, this is his third time on the Republican Party ticket. His first time, he faced former Secretary of State and First Lady Hillary Clinton, where the underestimated Trump pulled off a massive upset to win the Electoral College, while Clinton won the popular vote. But in 2020, Trump was ousted from the White House by current U.S. President Joe Biden. Clearly overstated, but we will say it anyway, this race is historic. Trump is the first major party candidate to campaign while facing multiple criminal indictments for charges related to his business practices and his actions, allegedly inciting a riot on the U.S. Capitol following the 2020 election. And Harris is the first woman of color to head a major party ticket for president. Her candidacy, one of the shortest in U.S. history, was launched after Biden initially announced his candidacy for president, but withdrew under party pressure over a rocky debate. He ultimately endorsed Harris, who secured the Democratic nomination in August 2024 at the Democratic National Convention. The race has seen intense name-calling and unforgettable moments.
She's a low IQ individual. I don't want to have her say, you know, I had an idea last night while I was sleeping, turning, tossing, sweating. Because I sleep, I turn and I toss and I sweat. I sleep like, no, I don't even sleep, you know.
Making Donald Trump one of the biggest losers of manufacturing jobs in American history.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
Hot topics on the ballot: the economy, immigration and the U.S. border, and women's reproductive rights. The polarized race has led to a dead heat in the polls, with some sharing no real insight as to who will be sworn in at 12 p.m. on January 20 as the U.S. president. With the average of the national polls showing Harris at 48.4% and Trump at 47.2%, and the swing states polls mirroring the national polls.
All right, we take our first break. When we come back, we'll speak to our guests as we look into what's happening up there in North America. The U.S. presidential election, we are in the decision phase. The voting in most states is winding down, if not done, in a few.
Challenges are everywhere and things are constantly changing, but independent living remains the same. Rising above physical challenges, we can help you do it. For years, we have been Jamaica's trusted provider for solutions to improve patient care, safety, and the general quality of life. No matter your age or your physical limitation, we are the caring store, waiting to serve you. It's time to experience independent living. Visit us today.
Fan Central Pitside, brought to you by Edgechem, AIM Financial Corporation, Texaco, and Connex.
Welcome back to CVM TV. This is Lead Story. All right, let me get to my guests now. I have with me Blaine Stothart. Blaine is he is a senior advisor or president and CEO of BFW Group, LLC. They provide construction, project management, program management, owners representation, among other services. And my other guest is Lorman Lynch. He is a prominent member of the Jamaican diaspora and a man who knows his way around council and city politics. And he's on the side of, on the East Coast. He's in New York. Gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Lead Story.
Good evening. Thanks for having us.
Good. Lorman, you're the youngest man on the panel, so you won't mind if the senior man goes first. Blaine, Blaine, good evening. Where are you, and what time did you vote today?
I'm in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hopefully you can hear me. I voted last week. I did an early vote.
You did an early vote. All right. The temperature in Pennsylvania state is hot. We were told by polls and by individual data scientists that there was nothing between the candidates. Based on what happened today, do you think the pollsters will be borne out, or that whomever wins the state will win with something to spare?
I believe that whoever wins Pennsylvania will win the presidency. Pennsylvania is the bellwether state. I'm happy to be here, happy to be coming on CVM to talk to Jamaicans about what's going on here. But again, my prediction is Kamala Harris will win by 20,000 votes and will win the presidency.
She'll take Pennsylvania easily.
No, with the amount of voters here, I think we have over 6 million voters. I'm not sure. But again, 20,000 votes is not a
in context, no, yeah.
Reality. If she wins by 20,000 votes, which is my prediction, it's a very, very narrow margin. And I am sure that the former President Trump will ask for a recount in Pennsylvania, but it's going to be tight.
Yeah.
If Kamala Harris does not win Pennsylvania, she will not be the next president. Donald Trump will be.
Yeah, and so the question was important, just to put it in context for Jamaicans who think that 20,000 votes in a particular seat or division is a lot. Not in the context of Pennsylvania state. It is a small number, and as Blaine said, if it's 20,000 indeed that separates Harris from Trump, you can bet your bottom dollar he will ask for the votes to be counted again and may go all the way as he seeks to press home his claim for victory in that particular place. Lawman Lynch, the fact is that New York is... The Democrats count on New York. They put that on the shelf and don't worry about it. It's not one of those places that will determine the outcome this evening. But based on what you're picking up among your diaspora friends, what they did actually go to the voting booth and did, who looks to be the person who got the most support from Jamaicans eligible to vote in where you are in the United States?
Absolutely. Once again, thanks for having me. I believe the Democrats, as usual, will take New York. The sad thing is that we have become so complacent, especially in areas such as Brooklyn, where we believe that over time, because the Democrats are always winning New York, we have become complacent. However, I believe that this time around, they understood the assignment and they recognized the importance of bringing Kamala Harris home. The reality is that there are round about, 34 Senate seats up for grabs. And in New York, especially along the Long Island belt, those seats have been, since around about 2014, have become Republican seats. And the Democrats are now trying we are trying our hardest to ensure that we can flip those seats back. Essentially, though, based on what we're seeing, the Republicans currently hold the House, as you know, have majority of seats in the House, and we're hoping we can flip that in these elections. But as Blaine said, all eyes are really on Pennsylvania. New Yorkers are dependent on Pennsylvania to bring home the elections for Kamala.
Yeah, right. You spoke about complacency, and that's a very good thing to speak about, especially in the context of pollsters saying the election is so tight. Do you get the feeling that the strong turnout we're seeing so far supports the person that you want to occupy the White House from January next year?
I believe so. But to contextualize the situation, this morning when I went to vote, it was easy. It was a breeze, and I waited because I felt I would have been on a long line at 9 a.m. in the morning, but that was not what I saw. I was easily in and out this morning, but I was a little bit uneasy with that, so I took a drive up to the Bronx, and by midday, 1 o'clock, I saw the lines getting longer. By the time I got back to Brooklyn, the lines were even much longer. So I believe that by the close of the night, we'll definitely see a Democratic win.
Yeah, I saw a report out of one of those states which said that DC Young Fly was in the line to vote from about 8 a.m. and up to late this afternoon, he had not managed to do so because of some technical issues, of course, and he was adamant that he was not leaving until he got the chance to exercise his franchise. Blaine, the exit polls have suggested that most people who voted said they were motivated to do so given what they felt was the state of U.S. democracy. Articulate what that means for me in real terms. What do they mean by the state of U.S. democracy, and why is it so important?
I think the United States has been a leader in democracy and free and fair elections. And I think that's come under attack the last couple of elections with the recounts, with a lot of Americans believing that the system is rigged. And so it seems as if we're no longer the leader in free and fair elections by going other countries and saying, we're sending U.S. observers in to see if you, Mr. Foreign Nation, is conducting a free and fair election. And so I think this election, which I think may not be called tonight, I'm saying that to the audience, this election may not be called tonight, but how we manage the recounts and how we manage how we treat each other as Americans does matter, not only to us as Americans, but to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world is watching to see if America does have free, open, and fair elections.
Yes, hear you on that.
Which means giving everybody the opportunity to vote and making sure that their votes are counted.
Yes, indeed. Let me take the break and come right back. This is Lead Story here on CVM TV.
The time by Grace. Taste that moves you is
6:45.
Fan Central Pitside, brought to you by HChem, AIM Financial Corporation, Texaco, and Connex.
Welcome back to Lead Story here on CVM TV. The discussion will be enriched by the addition of David Panton, a former campaign manager for the Senator Ted Cruz. David, good evening. Welcome to Lead Story here on CVM.
Good evening. Good to be with you. And let me just clarify, I've never been a campaign manager for anyone, actually, but Ted Cruz is a good friend of mine, and I'm actually with him here in Texas.
Oh, there you go. All right. Even better. All right. So well, not to ask what's the vibe in Texas. It's more important than vibe. What's the lay of the land from where you sit, given what happened today with polls in most places set to close in under 2 hours?
Sure. Well, Texas is obviously a red state, a very conservative state, although that is changing. Ted's election is a very close one. So far, about 9 million people have voted, and Ted feels fairly confident, and his team feels fairly confident that he has a pretty significant margin of victory there. The numbers from today, which is probably will end up at another 3 million voters, sort of show him just with a few points ahead as well. So he should end up somewhere between 3 and on the low end, and on the high end, probably 7 or 8 points ahead. He's running against a very strong candidate, Colin Allred. But Ted ran a very good campaign. He was outspent, but he should end up winning. Donald Trump will safely win the state. There are more voters for Donald Trump than there are for Ted Cruz in Texas. He's very popular, so he should win here. I wanted to say a quick comment about something you mentioned earlier about the early exit polls, showing that the number one issue for voters was democracy.
Yes.
It mattered to them. And that was about 35% of voters. And 31% said the economy. And then after that was abortion, and after abortion was immigration. And obviously democracy and abortion cut for the Democrats. And I think economy and immigration cut for the Republicans. So I think, those results would show an early tendency. It's early days yet, towards the Democrats. However, something else in those polls which I thought was interesting, when people were asked how they feel about the way things are going in the country, 72% said they're either dissatisfied or angry. So 43% said dissatisfied and 29% angry. And 45% of voters said that they're financially worse off now than they were 4 years ago. And that's a dissatisfaction rate that is higher than any presidential election going back to 2008, when 42% of the voters said that they were worse off. And that was in the wake of a financial crisis. So this is definitely going to be a close election. But I do think that the Republicans have a very good chance of winning.
Yeah, David, it's way too late now to talk about what Donald Trump should have done on the campaign. The campaign is history. We're talking about election night now. And perhaps it is, though, that what the exit polls are showing us is that maybe if Trump's campaign had been less on brand, if he had somehow tried to make himself more likable to people who really are wanting to vote on pocketbook issues, kitchen table issues, can I afford this issues, maybe the race wouldn't be as close as the pollsters tell us it is.
It's a possibility, but it's speculation. I can say as a factual matter, Donald Trump's favorability rating in this election is 50%, which is the highest favorability rating that he has had. Higher than 2016, higher than 2020. It's actually the highest it's ever been. So regardless of what he did or did not do on the campaign trail, his favorability rating is at a record high. And I also think that some of the efforts, listen, there's a lot that is not likable about Donald Trump. But there is a lot that he did well strategically. I think his decision to co-opt RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr., who was a third-party candidate, to get people like Tulsi Gabbard, who is a former Democratic congresswoman, to have the support of Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, who owns the X platform, formerly Twitter, which has, he has 200 million followers, to go on the Joe Rogan talk show, which has, I think, several, tens of millions of followers. It's the new media, very strong support, which Kamala Harris did not go on. I mean, when you pull that type of coalition together, it's pretty powerful. So it's going to be a close election, I believe, but there is a fairly high likelihood, I believe, that the Republicans are going to win.
Yeah. Loban, let me come back to you quickly. Stay where you are, David. The issues that motivated the decision that you made, did you just vote because Kamala Harris is this black woman in the race, or did you vote on the issues that are affecting you in your day-to-day life as an aspiring politician over there in New York?
I always vote on issues, George, and I think it is very important that we vote as such. And similar to what David Panton was saying, there are also Republicans who have crossed over to the Democratic Party simply because they do not like the direction that the Republican Party is going. They do not like Donald Trump for whatever reason. And just to touch on something that David said also, the reality is that when Donald Trump became president, and a lot of individuals are like, the economy was better, he really inherited an economy that was in the blacks, right? And he gave us something to clean up. And for the past 4 years, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been doing a wonderful job as to trying to clean up the mess that Donald Trump left us with. But I always vote on the issues, and one of the main issues happened to be a social justice issue that was critical to a lot of voters here in New York. We voted on the Proposition 1 to Proposition 6. And we encouraged our base to definitely vote yes for Proposition 1, which was really protecting abortion rights and, rights to, equal rights and justice. It's really a social justice proposition.
Yes.
That was one of the main issues that I know for a fact resonated with individuals in Brooklyn.
Yeah, Blaine, on the economy point, you spoke to the state of democracy point, but on the economy point, based on the numbers that David quoted, which are accurate numbers based on what the exit polls have shown, people just felt that they were better off under the Trump presidency than what they experienced under the Biden-Harris duopoly, if you want to call it that. Do you think that will nudge the result in a particular direction, given that they want to perhaps return to the prosperity, relatively speaking, of the Trump presidency?
Again, I think I was on this program and somebody challenged me because I said I was a businessman. I'm a Democrat. I'm a moderate Democrat. The economy is probably one of the economic development and job creation are probably personally two of the most important issues to me. Nothing can happen. We cannot help the poor. The working class will not advance. Nothing will happen unless we can have a rising tide as it relates to economic development and job creation. And I don't care what our leaders have to do, whether they have to cut taxes, whether they have to lower interest rates, whether they have to give business incentives to create jobs or use tax credits. I don't care what they do, Democrat or Republican. We must have a pro-economic development president. Now, when we look at the numbers, and I know David may challenge me, when we look at the numbers because of COVID and other external factors and inflation, I think Mr. Trump gets a bounce because he's seen as a businessman that has programs on TV about firing people. And so Mr. Trump is more trusted on the economy. But when you look at the numbers have not been that bad under the Democrats. And so, again, I don't think that the Democrats, the problem with this election is a lot of times the candidates were not able to articulate their issues in an understandable way. Somebody gave them something to say, and they just kept repeating it. And so, I'm available. Whoever the president is, I'm available to come.
Hear you on that. I have to interrupt you, Blaine, to give David the last word. David, the economy, many people say, regardless of what happens, it will always come back to the economy. The state of democracy hinges on that. Everything else hinges on the state of the democracy. Do you think that Trump has won the argument, and at the end of the day, however long it takes to count these votes, to tally the electoral college numbers, that he will be the one waiting to be inaugurated come January next year?
Let me say two things quickly. First is the numbers speak for themselves, right? 72% of the people in the exit poll say that they're either dissatisfied or angry with the way things are going in the country. When you have that higher percentage, it is almost impossible for an incumbent to win. Very, very difficult. But Donald Trump is a very unpopular former president. He has done some things and said some things which are very difficult. There are a lot of women in particular who are concerned about abortion, which is a big issue, and are coming out in high numbers.
The second point quickly, I'm out of time. The second point quickly.
Second point is very simple. At the end of the day, it's exactly this issue. It's going to be turnout and organization and mobilization. And I do think that the Republicans have done a much better job this time than 2020, but the Democrats are always the best at it. So time will tell.
Hear you on that. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. All the best to you. And I retreat now to watch as the results come in. Recall, the last election, Trump won only one of the 7 swing states. Only one. And he lost the electoral college vote. Let's see if he does better this time or if Harris holds what Biden brought home at the last election in 2020. This has been Lead Story. Thank you very much. I make way now for Nika Lewis with the news at 7.
Hi everyone, my name is Kurt Dunn.
Greetings from Kali's Kelly Yoga.
Hey, it's Travin Morrison, and I am your National Physical Activity Specialist. And it's time to make a move.
Jamaica, let's get moving again. Season 2.
Side brought to you by Edgechem, AIM Financial Corporation, Texaco, and Connex.
Small business owners and independent contractors get affordable insurance with Sagicor Pro Shield. The time by Sagicor Life is
7 o'clock.
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Tonight in CVM News at 7. Raphael spears coast but leaves behind a flooding. Plastic bottles contributing to flooding and blocked drains in the KSAMC. By-election highly anticipated in Morant Bay Division. And Indicom concerned by JCF's position on body cameras. In the business report, Jamaica's position in the transshipment hub battle. While in sports, Jamaican Laurie Sharp, first female cyclist to win Caribbean Road Race title.
From Kingston, Jamaica, this is CVM News at 7. I'm Nika Lewis. It's Tuesday, November 5, 2024. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, looking at live footage from CVM Skycam as Tropical Storm Raphael and its remnants. Now, and when can we expect the rain to ease?
Well, the center of Tropical Storm Raphael has moved on past Jamaica, is now moving through the Cayman Islands, probably just about passing the Cayman Islands now on its way to western Cuba. So it's making a Caribbean tour, apparently. It's still a tropical storm, on the verge of becoming a hurricane. And we are left behind the spiral bands or the outer bands from this system that continue to move across Jamaica. So we are experiencing quite a bit of rainfall across sections of Jamaica associated with those spiral bands. They are also associated with the tropical storm, but the center of the system has actually moved way past Jamaica.
And based on your information, Mr. Thompson, what has been the impact of the storm?
Well, from my information, I know that lots of places have been experiencing very heavy rainfall in periods. We also experienced some flooding over sections of the island, primarily over southern parishes. That's what I've been hearing. We've been having flooding events in parts of southern parishes. We had some events also of strong gusty winds, and in particular in the western end of the island, we experienced even some downpours from storm force gusts.
You mentioned that earlier, but how would you advise Jamaicans to proceed?
Well, I should point out that it is the tropical storm warning that has been lifted. However, there is a flash flood warning that is in effect for the southern parishes of the island. And that means from Westmoreland through St. Elizabeth and Manchester, through Clarendon, St. Catherine, Kingston, St. Andrew, and St. Thomas. That's a flash flood warning, which means that flooding has been reported or will occur shortly. And then for the rest of the island on our northern side, we have a flash flood watch that is in effect, which means that flash flooding is also possible in these areas.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Principal Director of the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, Mr. Evan Thompson.
You're welcome.
Meanwhile, as Tropical Storm Raphael brushed past Jamaica's coast, it left pockets of disruption across the island, though sparing us from its full force. Ramon Gordon reports on the impact still being felt by residents and the steps underway to return to normalcy.
Jamaica was spared the worst of late-season Tropical Storm Raphael, which veered off the island's west coast on Tuesday, heading towards Cuba. Schools and government offices remained closed Tuesday, even as the tropical storm warning was lifted at noon. The inclement weather continued, but not disrupting at least one tourist operation in Lucianova. While some Jamaicans went about their day, others weren't as lucky. Some roads in Glengoff and Catherine were impassable due to landslides. A similar fate befell some Jamaicans in a rural area in St. Andrew.
So the National Works Agency will be doing the necessary work to give back access to those communities. The minor ones, we should not go beyond, say, tomorrow. And the major one, those have to be engineered. You would have to have engineering assessment done on those areas.
Similar flooding events were reported elsewhere. Our news team revisited the now infamous New Haven community, where residents have seemingly embraced this less-than-ideal reality.
This is the norm. If I had to go to work, I would have to come out in this and then go to work and change my uniform and be at work. What are we going to do? We've been talking about this forever and nothing has been done. So what are we going to do? If the authorities don't see fit to fit the problem, we can the residents just live with it and pray.
There's also a prayer for safety, as the Kingston residents contend with something else.
Over there, sir, they say we see crocodiles sometimes. I'm able to come enough of them complain to me. One guy is come to fix him time. As you can see, he fed there. He might push it and when he look, I want crocodile in my feet and stick and push it out in the water.
While residents in New Haven face, in some instances, knee-high flood waters and crocs, fishers further afield at the Montego Bay Fishing Village were seemingly enjoying the day off work.
So you don't know what they are, man. Go easy. We say, all the boat them come out of the water, you don't know which one because they are going right to the storm right now. So you don't know. After a storm, there must be a calm, so you know the storm must go on one day.
We're not going to see you now. Because the boat pull in. And somebody going to know people is dead off. So we have to just secure yourself and watch where they go on.
Just there, cool out cards. You don't know, so we can't go and see you. We just go and look out and drink too. You know, and just say easy.
Up to news time, some roadways remained impassable. Here's footage from Marcus Garvey Drive in St. Andrew earlier, where the road was blocked by garbage. We also have footage from Guy's Hill, St. Catherine. Power lines in some areas are down, and the JPS is dispatching workmen to restore electricity in the shortest possible time. A more formal damage assessment is expected in the coming hours. Ramon Gordon for CVM News.
The authorities have now lifted the tropical storm warning and have put a flash flood warning in effect. Adrian Williams explains one critical contributor to the many clogged drains and consequent flooding.
Despite these crashing waves on the black sands of the Wikiwaki Beach in Bull Bay, St. Andrew, minimal impact was expected from Tropical Storm Raphael. However, the persistent rainfall has impacted several spaces around the corporate area, but a constant variable has been observed. An excessive buildup of plastic containers and debris in the vicinity of the Tinson Pen Aerodrome and over in New Haven in Kingston, blocking the free passage of water in various channels. In New Haven, known for flooding in times like these, the residents were unsurprised.
Water, we have flood up around at the back part of my yard.
So will it flood out already?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the front part. It don't leave to come in on me.
So you're prepared for move?
No, I don't have anywhere to go.
A cry shared by most residents in the area, but for others, they believe people have made their choice.
So you see what it is going to be on this earth, you know, it's funny now, I got to tell you something, it's the life where a man live. I just simply life.
And what of government efforts to help?
Let them try with them, you know, brother. At one point, Mr. Mackenzie, you come down here and them all. They know some follow them and they must run out even.
Sections of Windward Road was flooded, preventing an ease of flow for motorists and pedestrians.
If you want money, you have to cross it. This is Windward Road, NCB station. You gotta cross it, man.
In the meantime, people chart their own path through the 6 to 7 inches of floodwaters. Adrian Williams reporting for CVM News.
And the infamous pond in Bullet Tree, Old Harbour, St. Catherine has again blocked off several communities, including Ginger Ridge, Browns Hall, Barton's Red Ground, and the general Bullet Tree area. The pond is known to overflow once there is persistent rainfall, and remain that way until the water recedes naturally. Fishermen from Old Harbour Bay are relied on to rescue commuters with return trips no less than $1,000. One resident due to travel overseas says the only option was to cancel their travel plans. Tropical Storm Raphael churned past the western coast of Jamaica, and we have been tracking the development on that end of the island, where we have more now from CVM's St. James and Trelawney correspondent Kingsley Thompson.
Good evening and thank you so very much. In this report, a very short report, I'd like to let you know that Trelawney is good. Nothing out of the ordinary to report in that parish. Back in St. James, still nothing yet to report, nothing of significance, no flooding that is of concern to authorities here, and no damage that we are aware of caused by the rains. At the Sangster International Airport, 4 flights did not make it in and 4 did not make it out. The airport, however, remains open with full operations. Earlier on this afternoon, I left downtown Montego Bay for the southern hills of the parish and stopped in Johns Hall. Johns Hall, if you remember, just 2 months ago, that community experienced unprecedented flooding and landslides. Today, we are happy to report that unlike 2 months ago, what we saw then, it's a completely different picture today. And while the residents were hesitant to speak to us on camera, they expressed relief that they were spared this time. As we bring you this report, we're still getting rains, intermittent showers, light showers, but nonetheless, it is still raining here in Trelawney, St. James. Reporting from Montego Bay, Kingsley Thompson for CVM News.
More to come from CVM News at 7 after this break.
CVM News at 7 headlines Tuesday, courtesy of Heart NSTA Trust, Jamaica's Human Development Agency.
Do whatever the crunch you want with KFC's popcorn chicken. Delicious, juicy, irresistible. Now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
You know my heart goes crazy when you take the lips to time. Let's explore our love. We'll leave the world behind. Can you feel this?
Schoolboy Football, September 7 to December 14 on CVM TV.
Schoolboy Football, brought to you by Edgechem, AIM Financial Services, Texaco, and Connix. CVM News at 7 Tuesday, brought to you by KFC.
KFC's popcorn chicken, now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger-licking good.
Welcome back. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, is urging caution as Jamaica sees heavy rainfall and flooding from Tropical Storm Raphael. While speaking on CVM's News at Noon, Acting Director General of ODPEM, Richard Thompson, says more collaboration and dialogue will be held with agencies and tourism sector stakeholders to help improve disaster preparedness as Jamaica nears the end of the hurricane season. Courtney Lewis has the details.
Jamaica is in the last month of the projected hurricane season and the country has hunkered down for Tropical Storm Raphael. But the forecast of heavy rains and flooding did not deter some, as it was business as usual for rafters on Tuesday morning.
That is quite dangerous, and that is really surprising, because what we have been saying to persons, once we are at hurricane warning, hurricane watch, going into hurricane warning, tropical storm watch, going into tropical storm warning, flash flooding as well, we are always saying to persons, exercise all the necessary precaution that is required and stay in where best.
The Acting Director General of ODPEM, Richard Thompson, says more conversations will be had with business operators and tourism partners to prevent possible loss of life due to negligence. Policies to strengthen the country's disaster preparedness will also soon be in effect with more public interaction.
What we're looking at is what is happening in our local space in Jamaica, what is happening in terms of all those international movement as it relates to disaster management, and all those international agendas that we have signed to, and what we need to have happen for our people in Jamaica to ensure that we're keeping them safe and we are building resilience as a country.
The ODPEM is working closely with the Met Service and the government for these improvements.
We are actually joined at the hips in terms of how we do things, and the disaster risk management process in Jamaica is one of the true joint-up government approach. So everybody is involved in the process, and we don't make decision that involves a particular operations within the risk management field without getting those parties involved.
Courtney Lewis for CVM News.
A major landslide recently hit the McGlashan and Mount Prospect area of Brandon Hill in West Rural St. Andrew, leaving numerous residents stranded. In the aftermath of the disaster, authorities have been on site to assess the extent of the damage. More in this report from Britannia Witter.
Like a scene from a poorly scripted action movie, one resident in McGlashan St. Andrew stood on the edge of what used to be the main road as he recorded the aftermath of the disaster that struck his community in the early hours of Sunday morning. The landslide, triggered by weeks of heavy rainfall, swallowed the road and blocked several residents from entering their homes, causing severe distress and panic among the residents. West Rural St. Andrew Member of Parliament Juliet Cuthbert Flynn was of the view that the ground on which the road was constructed is unable to withstand the downpour.
The soil is, the kind of soil that's there is shale. It's not sturdy, and so what they say with the saturation of the land, with the torrential rain that they've been having over the past 6 weeks continuously, it really, the land shifted, they say, from hundreds of meters below. And so with that fault, the land shifted, and that is why we have the landslide.
She added that based on preliminary reports, it is unclear whether the road will be restored.
From what I'm being told so far, this is going to be a very difficult work to really, if at all, the road is going to be reinstated.
In response to the disaster, the National Works Agency and the National Water Commission dispatched teams to assess the damage and commence work, as water pipes were also damaged before Tropical Storm Raphael made landfall. A temporary walkway covered with marl was set up to allow residents and emergency responders to traverse the hilly area. As assessments continue, authorities are working to devise a long-term recovery plan for the affected community, emphasizing the need for improved infrastructure to mitigate the risk of future landslides. Residents are being urged to remain vigilant as heavy rainfall is expected to cause even more damage to the affected area. Britannia Witter, CVM News.
As millions of Americans cast their ballots in the pivotal 2024 presidential election, attention turns to the closing of polls across the United States of America. With varying hours depending on state regulations, voters are urged to ensure they are in line before their local polling places close. The first polls will begin to close at 6 p.m. in parts of Indiana and Kentucky. But all eyes will be on the 7 swing states that many anticipate will determine the election. Lead anchor and host George Davis joins now to tell us a little bit more about those polls and when they will close.
Thank you, Nika. All right, so let me tell you though, the 3 of 51 states have been called so far, the race in 3 of 51 states. So far, 19 electoral college votes have been appointed for Donald Trump and 3 for Kamala Harris, 3 of 51 states. Overall, so far, based on the counting of the vote, Kamala Harris, 3,132,460 votes. That's a 45% vote share. And Donald Trump, 3,836,127 for a 55% voter share. As things stand, very, very early, too early to draw any conclusions. 3 of 51 states, including the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., 3 of 51, Trump with 19 electoral college votes, Harris with 3. Of course, the race is to 270. Now, the critical times are these times. We have for you this graphic showing the 7 swing states, and we're showing when polls are closing in those 7 swing states. It's closed already in Georgia, where Trump went into the election with a 1-point lead, well within the margin of error, which was plus or minus 4. In North Carolina, it closes at 7:30, so 10 minutes from now, the polls will close in North Carolina, with Trump holding another tiny lead there. Dead even in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvanians have until 8 p.m. this evening, Jamaica time. We and the US are on the same time now, so I can say the time easily without having to do the differential. So 8 p.m. is when the polls close in Pennsylvania. Then the polls close 9 p.m. in Arizona, 9 p.m. in Michigan, 9 p.m. in Wisconsin, and in Nevada, the 7th of the swing states, it closes at 10 p.m. p.m. So that's the state of the race right now. Polls are closing and are scheduled to close, so you don't have to wonder. These are the 7 states that matter, Nika, and the race is to 270. Whomever gets to 270 in the race for the Electoral College votes wins the White House.
And you don't want to try to predict anything?
My withers aren't telling me anything that is coherent and clear at this point.
All right. Well, thank you, George. Well said. So for many people, this 2024 U.S. election holds life-changing stakes as each candidate's policies could deeply impact the lives of those they represent. Among the Jamaican diaspora, support swings both ways, but one lawyer believes the Democratic Party offers the best hope for securing immigrants a future in the U.S. Raheem White has this report.
A number of Jamaican immigrants are voicing their support for former U.S. President Donald Trump in the 2024 U.S. presidential election. Key factors driving this support includes his administration's economic policies, particularly in relation to inflation, and his stance on LGBTQ+ rights, which resonated with some of Jamaica's expatriates living in the U.S. and the broader diaspora. Meanwhile, Trump's stance on immigration and his public remarks regarding the Caribbean have earned him criticism from a portion of Jamaican immigrants.
I can say this, we will do large deportations.
On day one, I will launch the largest deportation program in American history. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered. And we will put these vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in jail or kick them the hell out of our country.
The conversation has sparked a division among Jamaican immigrants, with critics arguing that Trump's policies are indeed anti-Caribbean and anti-immigrant.
So it is important to Jamaica for the Democrats to be in a position to follow through on this. On the other hand, the Republicans and Donald Trump are talking about deporting everybody and making life harder for people to get into the United States. They're talking about changing their immigration laws to just make it tougher. What we know is that they're not making it tougher for people from Norway and white countries. They're making it tougher for people from countries like ours. And so, again, life would be tougher for Jamaicans if Trump wins. But it would be better for us in terms of the immigration position if, in fact, Kamala Harris and the Democrats are in power.
With polls closing and results are set to release, immigrant voters' surprising preference for Trump has added a new layer of intrigue to the complex and interconnected political landscape of the United States. Raheem White, CVM News.
Much more to come after this break. Do stay with us.
Story, what's your sign? We're dreamers. Don't care what other people say. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive. We come alive. We come alive. We're doing this in our own way. We come alive.
Welcome back. We now take a look at the business report with Joel Crosskill.
Lots to share with you in the business report today, though admittedly the BR is barely able to skim the surface of the fathom of information contained in the recent Shipping Association of Jamaica's 85th anniversary distinguished lecture, as guest speaker Lars Jensen, CEO of Vespucci Maritime and a well-known thought leader in the shipping industry, provided a detailed analysis of the transshipment hub battle taking place within the region.
And let's then, as I said, drill a little bit more down into Jamaica. If I look at it from a transshipment hub perspective, I mean, these are the 5 ones that really matter in this region. It's Jamaica here, it's Kingston, then it's Caucedo, it's Freeport, it's Cartagena, and it's Colon in reality. And If we are in a world where, as I mentioned before, we might see a drive towards fewer but larger hubs, this is the game that's on. This is the game where we might see over the next 10 years, 5 become 4. If 5 becomes 4, who can win and who can lose?
For President of the Shipping Association of Jamaica, Cora Ann Robertson Sylvester, losing is not an option.
This is no ordinary time for Jamaica. As we celebrate 85 years in the history of the Shipping Association of Jamaica, 85 years, we find ourselves at a defining crossroad. A moment in which the choices we make today will shape the trajectory of our industry for decades to come.
However, as Lars Jensen explains, while Jamaica does have advantages that are encouraging, establishing itself as the premier locale for regional trade won't be smooth sailing, flagging a number of factors that characterize the current and future conditions of global transshipment.
My view on where the container shipping sector is heading is a view that promises you absolutely no calm. We have had a lot of turmoil in the industry the last 4 years, and I'm telling you already now, it's not going to get any more calm than that. So we're going to be faced with multiple challenges, but in challenges comes opportunities as well. So what I'm going to do here today is to give you my view on what the external forces are, how the world is going to change, at least the world within container shipping. Where are we now? Where are we going to be in 25? What are the main developments that will shape this industry over the next decade? And once we have set that framework, how does that then impact especially Jamaica as a hub? Is that good? Is it bad? What should be done to position Jamaica for success in that, I wouldn't say storm that is coming, but in that storm we are already in?
Jamaica, however, is not navigating the space alone, enjoying the assistance of a number of stakeholders, including the European Union, through its Global Gateway Initiative, as reaffirmed by Ambassador of the EU to Jamaica, Her Excellency Dr. Erja Ascola.
Those who think big can achieve big things. We believe that the Kingston Port has great potential and can indeed become a major logistics hub in the Caribbean, and why not globally. To turn this vision into reality, many different stakeholders will have their vital roles to play. The government, the shipping association, the private sector, development partners, and financial institutions.
Seeking buy-in internally and externally falls under the purview of Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce Senator Obin Hill, who got more granular on the part logistics must play within the broader picture of Jamaica's economic ambitions.
In Jamaica, our logistics sector contributes about 2% of our GDP. Clearly, a small base and therefore lots of room to grow. A figure we aim to increase to between 5 to 7% over the next decade. When we expand our logistics infrastructure, build a stronger foundation for special economic zones, and adopt smart, sustainable practices, we anticipate creating over 30,000 direct jobs with an additional 75,000 indirect jobs across related industries. The logistics business in Jamaica will have to take a very prominent frontal role in changing and building the new Jamaica. That has to be a much wealthier Jamaica.
It was a charge that was reinforced within the closing remarks of the SHA president, who encouraged those captains of industry present to stay true to course.
Let today's gathering serve as a powerful reminder. Jamaica's maritime future is bright, but it is up to us to seize it. Together we can ensure that our nation not only meets the demands of a changing world, but leads in creating a sustainable, prosperous, and resilient maritime industry.
And that was your business report. I'm Joel Crosskill.
We head to a break, but there's more to come.
looking good. The time by KFC is 7.
That's it. We're closed. I am so sorry. We only have 3 patties left.
It's a Jamaican thing, but full of flavor. Hey. We set the trend style major. Juicy patty, happy savor. You know the patty nice when we do the juicy patty bones. Patty bones, patty bones, watch your bones, watch your bones. Hot patty, watch your steam. Juicy patty bones, patty bones, patty bones, watch your bones, watch your bones. Juicy patty, ready for we go. From food I keep in our party. Juicy patty, have something for everybody. So patty for nice. Patty bones, watch your bones, watch your bones. Hot patty, watch your steam. Juicy patty bones. Grab your family and do the juicy patty bones.
Do whatever the crunch you want with KFC's popcorn chicken. Delicious, juicy, irresistible. Now available in barbecue. KFC, it's finger licking good.
Thanks for staying with us. We now go to the digital pages.
So, what's trending in our local social media spaces? It's raining and pouring. Despite Jamaica being under a tropical storm warning earlier today, rafting operations continued at Great River Rafting in Hanover. The country is still currently experiencing excessive rainfall and flooding. Social media users reacted to this. At The Untamed Feline writes, "Una forgot them say Jamaica always a keep?" At Tammy T. Reynolds 40 shares, "Heights of carelessness. Nah, sorry for your soul when things go bad." At Shay Love 2209 says, "So who could I get me for go on that today? Kiss my teeth." At Lisi Poo 14 posts, "Then government get blame." At Madden Anne-Marie notes, "This is crazy. Where's TPDCO to shut this down?" At Coretta Tomlinson adds, "Imagine a slackness this. People will act delulu still, but them for no delulu actions equals delulu results, so don't come blaming anyone." At Richie Nats comments, "Wanna try to come walk out the authorities then when something happen." And that's what's trending online today. Continue to share your thoughts with us on X at CVM TV and CVM_television on Instagram. I'm Courtney Lewis.
Time now for regional and international news.
We begin with news in the region. In Antigua and Barbuda, authorities are investigating the death of Asot Michael, the parliamentary representative for St. Peter, after he was found in a pool of blood at his home. The police are treating his death as a homicide. We hear more from ABS TV Antigua.
There are some injuries on the body, which now opens up a homicide investigation as to the circumstances that led to those injuries. We do not know what happened, but we are going to use all the resources that we have locally, regionally, and internationally. I will be speaking to my regional partners. I'll be speaking to my international partners, and whatever resources that we need, we will use everything to address such a serious crime. It is a very heinous crime when you see that type of injury and that somebody's lying in that condition. So we're going to be committed to investigate the matter. We will use this opportunity to appeal to the general public that they must respect the family, the privacy of the family, and be careful of the type of information they're going to share. At the same time, we will ask them, anyone who have any information, any indication as to what may have transpired, to step forward. This is a national event in this term that everybody have a part to play, and we will call for every citizen to play their part in solving this matter. Mr. Michael, as we know, has been a parliamentarian for a number of years. He has served in the government as a minister, and he has been that person that have assisted so many persons across Antigua and beyond. We will use all our resources, and we will call for the general public to support us in any way possible.
Barbados' healthcare system is about to benefit from an injection of 155 nurses from Ghana. They arrived on the island yesterday and were greeted by officials from the Ministry of Health. CBC News Barbados has that report.
The health minister believes the most recent cohort from Ghana will play a major role in helping to fill the void.
We're getting close. I think you'll recognize that recently the Prime Minister spoke about creating an additional 142 posts for nurses in our hospital alone. That is over a period of 2 years. So we are getting there. The director is nursing for the QEH is there, and I'm sure that he feels very pleased with this bunch of nurses coming in, and also the fact that there's commitment for more nurses spaces. We recognize that the health system needs more nurses.
Ghana's Deputy Minister of Health, Adelaide Netem, says her country is pleased to continue facilitating this opportunity for their nurses.